Okay, welcome everyone with another edition of Shitlords Unite. Today we are joined by Thoughtful Salt, say hello,
Hello.
and Archon,
Faggots.
and also Draco.
Hey there.
Okay, we can kind of start off soft with, did you guys get anything for Black Friday? Did you buy anything interesting?
Gonna buy a PS4, but that's within a couple days probably.
Okay.
Cyber Monday.
I got a solid state drive. That's about it.
Okay, and you, Thoughtful?
I got a PS4 Pro, and then I spent like $100 on Horizon Zero Dawn, The Last of Us Remastered, GTA Trilogy, Bloodborne, because I've wanted to play that for the longest time. The Uncharted collection, which is all the single-player campaigns,
Okay. Yeah, I bought
and Nier
Final.
Automata. There we
Oh,
go.
that's a good game. I've heard at least. I bought Final Fantasy 15. I bought Gran Turismo. I bought the 1 year subscription to PS Plus. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, so let's dive into the first topic. International Men's Day, which happened during this last week. I'm just gonna read a short article with regarding to Philip Davis, because he's the one kind of who is, I think it was last year or the year before, started with this whole discussion about International Men's Day. So here it goes. MP Philip Davis said men and women should be treated the same when they commit a crime. The Shipley member whose constituency includes Denholm and Cullingworth said a crime is the same regardless who committed it, and there is no justification for treating people differently based on their sex. Speaking during a debate in Parliament on International Men's Day, he said the focus solely on women and girls is serious. To give you one example of how dangerous it can be, a serious case review led to Bradford Council and the police apologizing for letting down a 14-year-old boy who was groomed by dozens of men. He continued, Phil Mitchell of the Blast Project in Bradford as saying, I think the fact he was a boy was an issue. If the police had got a call that a girl was planning to sleep with an older man, then I think officers would have responded with more urgency. Mr. Davies has said he would prefer International Men's Day and International Women's Day scrapped, and to allow men and women to happily coexist without tension or people stirring up issues with their own agendas. Mr. Davies told the Commons men are getting a bad press and men too are victims of abuse, rape and crime. He added, it is fair to say that I'm often pilloried, I think that's how he's pronounced it, for arguing that men and women should be treated equally. Those who think that the sexes should be treated differently in the eyes of the law are the ones who are truly sexist. So, what are your thoughts? I'll ask you one by one what you think of International Men's Day. I'll start with you, Salt.
I think it's perfectly reasonable to treat everyone the same, regardless of their sex, in terms of everything. Really, I mean, except for like hugely physically demanding jobs or certain like endurance tests.
Like
Beyond that, yes. Beyond that, I think.
I think what he's saying is anything like the law, everything should be treated equally. Other than that, it's kind of and for interpretation, he just wants people to be treated the same under the law. That's what I get, at least.
Yeah. So if a woman, for instance, commits a violent crime, and they just wear glasses to the courtroom and pry into their tissues and stuff, they generally get a reduced sentence compared to just any regular man. Though, of course, that distance is exacerbated when the man in question happens to be African American or a minority or whatever. But either way, they get reduced sentences across the board for a lot of things. So I think that should be rectified.
Archon, what are your thoughts?
Personally, I think the whole idea of an international anything day, regardless of what it is kind of fucking stupid. Just because, and I said this before the stream, but like, it's usually to bring awareness to stuff, but a lot of this stuff is pretty fucking prevalent. I mean, you can make a good case for something that's like not very well known, like if there's some new disease or a resurgence of a disease or something, or if some new situation had arisen that had increased autism rates, I can understand there being an awareness campaign. But honestly, dedicating just a day to it, to making people more aware just during this day is fucking stupid. You shouldn't be doing it just during this day. You should be doing it at all times if it's that important. And if you're going to be doing it at all times because it is that important, you shouldn't need a fucking day set aside to it. That's just stupid in my opinion.
Well, that's also what he mentioned in this article. The International Women's Day should also be removed. That should be.
I agree. I agree with this guy. I don't remember his name, but
Philip Davis.
Yeah, if you're gonna have a day at all, everyone should be represented fairly in it. But I don't think we should have the day because honestly, the problem should just be dealt with equally. You shouldn't need a day in order to focus on something. You should just fucking do it.
Yeah, fair enough. Revan, do you have anything to say regarding this?
One could say that one could remove both and just have a human awareness day or something like that.
Oh,
I want an international day for humans.
Hooray, we are humans!
But then it's all lives matter all over again, man.
True.
Yeah, that would be that will be basically accused of being All Lives Matters Day.
Yeah, exactly.
It's basically that all over again.
Yeah, but
Someone's echoing hard here.
maybe me.
Just continue.
Headphones, man. This is a proper podcast. Jesus.
Yeah, well, just continue. Well, what are your thoughts on this whole issue, Revan?
Well, I've said my thoughts. I did back out and I'm now on my phone, but that's, well, all I can say about the matter.
Okay, so Frost, what are your thoughts on the International Men's Day?
1 second.
No problem. Well, I can just leave my thoughts. I just think it's I mean regarding men's rights, what I've seen just in media and under the law, I just posted or saw an article where a woman basically raped a guy and got off from jail time, and got 5 years probation, and had to register as a sex offender, but basically got no jail time. Basically, she held a knife to his throat and forced rape on him, and that would basically be attempted murder, kidnapping, and rape all in one. But because men can't get raped, it would be sexual assault. So, and she didn't get any jail time. So I think seeing how when he got famous for this whole thing, when he tried to just talk about men's issues, and he got laughed out of the room by Jess Phillips, who is a terrible human being. When people just talk about just want one day to talk about these things, like I think it's stupid as well. But if we can't have one day where we can focus on this, I mean, it's gonna be very hard to even have every day to focus on this stuff. I agree. It's probably more effective, like Arkas said, having campaigns and awareness if something happens, and just to inform people how things are.
But remember, Andrew, if a woman rapes a man, he must have really wanted it.
Yeah, and we also have countries. I think U.S. I don't know. I'm not sure if it's changed, but I know UK still has this where a man can get raped. In the law actually, and I believe this was also in the U.S. Until at least very recently, and so there are so many issues that disproportionately
When it
affect.
comes to the US, it doesn't stand anything on the thing about men can be raped. It just doesn't exist.
Okay, yeah. But it's basically you have to be penetrated. That's the thing. Forced development can't happen. You have to be basically uh, only women, or if
But she
the
finger bangs you.
yeah, or use a dildo or something like that. Like crude ways to do this, but you can't be physically raped by a woman. So generally, I think issues like this should be put a spotlight on, because there are so many issues like family courts, suicide, jail sentences. There are homelessness, and colleges are more and more women now, and I mean there are so many issues you could just discuss, try to bring up, but it gets ignored mostly by the mainstream media, so it's unfortunate. Frost, do you have anything to say on this?
My whole much the same as Archon's today's for things. I think it's pretty fucking stupid that people think day is required for anything. But even on top of that, they would have the audacity to try and else from having a day for cause. Like, why is there an International Women's Day and who thought it was a good idea or that it was gonna change anything?
I think it's the UN, if I'm not mistaken, but yeah.
Like, it's completely that they would even think that that's necessary. Of that, to fight so hard against an International Men's Day, it just seems, I don't know,
Ridiculous.
it's very
Idiotic.
ridiculous.
Yeah, true.
Because only women and minorities suffer in this world. You know, speaking as a minority, that's patronizing as fuck.
Yeah, it's
True. Women should go into the army and get ourselves killed for the women and children. But
yeah. I mean it's soft bigotry of low expectations. That's how I look at it. I think we can we move on. We've almost spent 15 minutes on this topic. So the next one is net neutrality, which is a big thing in the US. I'm not sure how to best to describe it. It's basically where the ISPs, or the net providers, can basically throttle and basically extort and make some sites faster if the sites pay for it, like say Netflix or Google or anything like that, where those sites go faster and load faster, while the other ones go very slow, and they can dictate quite a lot of how the internet works. I'm gonna start again with you, Salt. But what are your thoughts on how the new guy, Chairman Ajit Pai? He wants to repeal net neutrality and change it. What are your thoughts on the entire situation?
Well, what you have here is basically just the shadow campaign by big ISPs and like internet companies to basically control pricing on the internet. Basically, if you look at the United States, it's basically just a bunch of big monopolies and a cooperation between these big internet providers and internet companies to only provide certain service in one area and another. There's actually been several interviews where one couples, where a spokesman basically said, "Oh, we agreed with AT&T that they would get this area and we would get this area," which, if you think about it, that's a monopolistic attitude. I mean, these guys have no idea like how blatant that looks. Up here in Canada, we don't have a very great situation because we basically only have like 3 or 4 big ISPs, but the way things are shaping up down in the States, at least ours won't be able to like price us out of the internet for like, oh, you have to pay $6 to access this site and also get a package of this. It'll be like cable cutting. I mean, it'll be like cable packages, and no one likes cable packages. Maybe people will just, I don't know, they won't cut the internet, but they might search for other alternatives and stuff. Unfortunately, with the monopolistic attitude that these ISPs have, they probably won't let competition in to actually say, okay, here's what we're doing, we're providing something better. No, we say you don't get to be here because this is our area of town, bucko.
They're already doing that.
Yeah.
There is chain sites now that don't have anything connected to any ISPs, as far as I.
And someone actually posted a comparison, like, because in Portugal, if I'm not mistaken, they actually don't have net neutrality either. So I took a look at some of their packages, and basically like, oh, social networks are $5, and YouTube and other video streams are like $10 a month, and that really just goes beyond the pale. Really, if that sort of thing happens in the United States, like, oh my God, next president, be it Trump or some Democrat or some other Republican, like, they're going to get hounded to fix this if it goes forward as planned, because really this is, as a Canadian looking down the States, we have it better than you right now.
Yeah, Alcon, go ahead.
Yeah, basically, I think if this keeps going, it's gonna be a similar situation with the whole cable package issue and what you're starting to see with the whole Twitter and YouTube migrations. People are going to start looking for other ways to get the internet, and it's going to be through smaller, more reliable, customer-based companies that are actually going to give a shit about their customers and not trying to screw them over because they want fucking money. And they're probably going to be startup companies like Gab. Like, look at how big Gab grew. And a lot of people from Twitter were like, fuck this, we're done with your bullshit, and they left. And I'm assuming there's probably at least 2 or 3 YouTube alternations because of the bullshit YouTube has been pulling, but I don't know what the name is off the top of my head.
Minds.com, and then you have bit.me.
Right, VidMe, and then I think there's also YouTube.
Vimeo.
Basically a mocking way of YouTube, because it's basically saying like YouTube stinks, but it's actually fairly good from what I've seen. But like you just see all these big fucking companies that are trying to take an entire monopoly on something, where they're just trying to screw over their customers in some way or another. And the customers are finally like it takes time, sure. It takes time for people to realize, hey, we're getting fucked over. Maybe we could change this. But once they do, you can start seeing a huge shift go. And once enough of them start shifting, they're going to be starting businesses that go out.
Yeah, Revan, do you have anything to say?
Here in Norway there isn't so much as it is in the United States, but I think it would trickle over if they actually did manage to to throttle the internet in the States. Therefore, having backup sites that doesn't have any ISP locked down on them is very useful, I'd say.
Part of the problem with ISPs in the US, their infrastructure is pretty much shit. Charts already. If you look at compare to other countries for the same price and compare that to the standard of living.
Yeah, aren't they in rural areas? You basically pay for a certain amount.
Well, I mean, even in the city, you pay a certain amount and you get a certain speed, but half the time you don't even get what you pay for. They have random blackouts at certain rate. They throttle your internet. They actually have a cap, which they don't tell you even when they say unlimited. It's just so high that most people won't feasibly reach it.
You're
That's
breaking
false.
up.
That's blatant false advertisement. I did see in the news recently that some lawmakers are looking into their misleading ads saying, "Oh, you'll get 100 megabytes download," and when in reality, like only 10% of customers get that. They want to change it so that they can only advertise the speeds that 50% or more of their customer base actually gets on average.
Yeah, part of the problem too is that I know a couple of people that have had issues with their ISPs throttling their internet because they do streaming, so they pull a lot of fucking data through the cords, and so the ISPs basically throttle them, and then they basically, I don't remember the exact term for what they do, but they basically file a complaint with the government and say, hey, this is my rights as a customer, blah blah blah, and then they take them to court. The problem is that they don't actually see it to the end. They basically settle, and so this doesn't usually come to the light of day for like a mass amount of the people. So people don't understand how big of a problem this is. If people that actually were getting throttled and had the ability to take them actually just said, "Fuck this, I'm not settling. You're going to court. We're doing this. You're not going to be able to keep this quiet anymore." Then I think this would probably be a lot less of an issue. It would probably still exist, but it would probably be less of a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, the way I look at it is basically these big ISPs. They if the net neutrality disappears, it's basically them selling cable networks, basically just on the internet, where you can have packages. You can get Snapchat, Netflix, Facebook, and Twitter. Or you can get a different sort of package. You can get the social media package. You can get the streaming package. You can get the gamer package, whatever. And then that's how I fear the worst case scenario is basically them refusing, like startups, like you said, Gab. You have Minds. You have these smaller companies, even just regular people, artists or businesses, are gonna have a really freaking hard time to make money and survive with this, because they're just gonna get ignored, and the big companies are the only ones that's gonna benefit from this. And I think that's really unfortunate. You're gonna remove innovation. You're gonna lose a lot of different products that you might be fond of, and I mean, this is a really bad situation if this actually goes through.
Yeah, it takes away the selection ability we have today.
Yeah, I mean, more choice is better in my opinion, and just looking at how just net neutrality just benefits the big companies that can afford to basically bribe the ISPs to make the internet faster for them, and they're gonna benefit in the long run. Because they're the ones that get all the traffic, all the customers, and ad revenue and all those sorts of things, and the small ones are just gonna disappear.
Yep, no choosing for the customer.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you guys have any additional thoughts regarding this?
Yes, it's more like a post I saw on Minds once, and he argued for it because sites had those sites that got slower would have to cut the different shits that's on there, like a moving advertisement and such. but I don't agree with it. It's just something to think about. If it's a good thing or bad.
The way I look at it is ISPs are trying to charge you by how much, for the most part, which wouldn't be a bad if they weren't treatment to.
Frost, you're breaking up much.
Yeah, you're breaking out a little bit. Oh well, yeah, I think we can agree in general. I mean, I've seen on Reddit, on Twitter, and other social media sites where people have basically just said that they don't want this at all because it's a really bad idea. And I've seen hundreds of thousands of upvotes for these threads on Reddit, for example, where they advocate for having net neutrality. So I think pretty much everyone is against it except for the people lobbying for it. So
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
If you're not a Sylvia, you're probably against it.
yeah, basically, yeah. Go ahead, Frost.
The thing is, I think they're trying to capitalize, which they know has been growing recently, especially because of the popularity in the last 10 to 20 years. And has for a provider, less people are needing or using that service in general. So they're trying to shift their attention to the internet. The problem is the internet is less tolerant of price gouging than cable users are.
True, you have the YouTube package that's coming out soon where they are on TV.
Yeah. A great
Yeah.
deal of people that like really relied on cable are usually older generations. There's still a lot of people in the younger generations that are like cable, but like a majority of cable people that like the only medium they know to get their information from is older generations because they're just not savvy with technology a lot of the time.
Well, if
a
you
lot of
look
young-
at cable, there's a lot you just don't use when you have
Yeah.
cable.
Yeah, I mean,
Or you don't watch in general.
It's because the internet is so much better at it than cable, so it's obsolete at this point to a lot of the younger generations.
I mean,
That's why there's the generation gap.
I really
True.
don't want to live in the future. I really don't want to live in the future. Okay, can you
Revan.
It's Revan. It's you that's echoing. I really don't want to live in the future where I have to pay like 20 extra bucks to access like a myriad of sites. Like that just seems very, very wrong to me. Fundamentally wrong. The internet is an open platform. It should remain open as much as possible.
I honestly don't think to access different sites. I think what they're gonna do is start trying to price gouge people for either how much data they use or how much bandwidth. That's
Yeah.
what I think they're really
But
trying to get at.
Yeah, but here in Norway, we may get a situation where they do copy Sweden. The TV company, the main one in Sweden, has it so you gotta pay them a certain amount, like a TV license, because you have internet on top of what you are paying for the internet itself. That is something that may happen here and may happen in Great Britain too.
Plus, if you look at, you'll realize that most other countries have like 10 times our internet speed.
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it, you said it very well, Frostrik. It's these big companies losing a lot of their revenue and power because people get the people, I would say under 40 would get the majority of their information from the internet, and people don't listen to them, to what they have to say, because it's pretty much agenda driven or propaganda driven of one side or the other, and people are not interested in it. Yeah, I think we covered.
Also,
Go ahead.
gaming market is way bigger than it used to be. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're really trying to charge gamers a little bit more than everyone.
Yeah, I mean that's also a good segue into the next topic, which is we talked about this last week with mostly just on the focus on EA. So there are some parts different parts I want to discuss. First of all, the CNBC article, which where they had this Evan Wingren, who basically said that these gaming companies should charge more. I can read the article. It's not that long. The headline says, gamers are overreacting to EA Star Wars controversy. Publishers should raise prices. Key Bank Capitalist Markets says outrage over video game microtransactions pricing is not justified. If you take a step back and look at the data, an hour of video game content is still one of the cheapest forms of entertainment. The firm analyst writes, quantitative analysis shows that video game publishers are actually charging games at a relatively inexpensive rate and should probably raise prices. God damn it. I'm just gonna have this quick sip. Gamers livid over Electronic Arts' in-game money-making strategy and its new Star Wars Battlefront 2 title are overreacting. According to Wall Street firm, we view the negative reaction to Star Wars Battlefront 2 and industry trading sympathy as an opportunity to add Electronic Arts, Take-Two, and Activision Blizzard positions. The handling of Star Wars Battlefront 2 launched by EA has been poor. Despite this, we view the suspension of microtransactions in the near term as a transitory risk. KeyBank Capitalist Markets analyst Evan Wingren wrote on a note clients Sunday. Gamers aren't overcharged, they're undercharged, and we're gamers. This saga has been perfect storm for overreaction as it involves EA, Star Wars, Reddit, and certain purist gaming journalists / outlets who dislike microtransaction, Wingren wrote. Shares of Electronic Arts have declined 10% month to date through Monday. Wall Street is worried controversy over EA Star Wars Battlefront 2 in-game monetization model will hurt the video game sales. I'm just gonna post the article so you can see what I'm talking from. Wingren noted that there is now a slightly higher probability the title will not hit its 30 million sales unit forecast. The analyst estimated cost per hour for a typical Star Wars Battlefront 2 player. He said if a gamer spent $60 for the game, an additional $20 per month for loot microtransaction boxes, and played around 2.5 hours a day for 1 year, it comes out to roughly 40 cents per hour of entertainment. This compares to an estimated 60 cents to 65 cents per hour for pay television, 80 cents per hour for a movie rental, and more than $3 per hour for a movie watched in a theater, according to the firm's analysts. If you take a step back and look at the data, an hour of video game content is still one of the cheapest forms of entertainment, he wrote. Quantitative analysis shows that the video game publishers are actually charging gamers at a relatively inexpensive rate and should probably raise prices. As a result, analysts reiterated his overweight ratings for Electronic Arts, Activision, and Take-Two with price targets, blah blah blah. Electronic Arts announced Thursday to temporarily turn off all in-game purchases in Star Wars Battlefront 2 in response to the negative sentiment from the gaming community. The initial uproar centered in game purchases Star Wars Battlefront 2. They allowed to save time by paying extra, blah blah blah. Well, we know the rest basically.
May I go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it like Raging Golden Eagle said it. Basically, they can raise the prices on the game itself, but cut out the micro transactions, and if they add the content after the fact, they can have it like a DLC. But otherwise, they shouldn't have microtransactions.
Salt, any thoughts?
Man, imagine them raising prices to like $120 and then saying that nobody buys them. Because, oh my god, $120? What do you think I am, insane? Like, die hard game.
But value for money. This guy says it's value for money.
I mean, it is true. For value per money, most video games provide a very high amount. Even $20 Gone Home, like, compares favorably to any random movie that you select.
How difference in the allocation of resources that require is it?
Well, I mean, the developers do have to dedicate. The developers do have to dedicate. Okay, Revan, headphones, please. If the developers do have to dedicate large amounts of resources in order to make the game compatible with loot crates and microtransactions and stuff, it does draw a lot of resources away from the designing of a great and fun game. Many would argue. Though some would say, "Oh no, they dedicate entirely separate people." So other people, yeah, those two realms collide and communicate in very organic ways that kind of like escalate each other. So the design of one definitely affects the other. So you have lots of Star Wars Battlefront 2 is just the final straw that broke the camel's back, the final evolution of this monstrous form that has been with us since the beginning of mobile pay-to-win and has slowly migrated into the general console atmosphere and PC gaming. The way this is going, I don't mind paying like I wouldn't mind if in Star Wars Battlefront 2 you noticed that there was this very cool gun skin and you wanted to have it. If they just set a standard price for it right there. Like, okay, if you want the skin, it's $3, or you can play a certain amount of time and you get a free loot box, not bought by any microtransactions or anything, and you might get it. Or you can just pay the price up front and get it immediately. I mean, that seems better to me than the current system that they're going for.
Like CSGO, basically.
Yeah, but without the monetary, without the ability for other people to like come in and say, "Oh, I want that skin for like, it's only $3 in game, but I'll pay you more for it because for some odd reason." Like CS:GO is just a weird system. That is gambling. That is gambling to the hardcore.
CS:GO, with the skins, you could sell the skins practically on an auction house, and sometimes people would sell skins for like about 10 or 20 or 40 or more. No joke.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of money.
15,000 Norwegian crowns.
Which is approximately like $2,200, something like that.
Yeah. A lot of these people who play on CS:GO would kill for skins, especially those that mod skins. It's kind of weird how they make these skins intentionally just to show off, but at the same time, you see them being sold for like a lot of money.
Archon, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think the whole situation is just kind of fucking dumb. It's like it sounds like a bunch of whining. Video games are cheaper, and they're not charging enough because other places are charging more. It's like, well, what do you fucking do? Companies charge as much as they fucking want to, and they're not going to listen to some crazy-ass analyst that's just going to say, charge more. Because I think some companies realize that if you charge more, people are going to get pissed off, and they're going to be like, no, fuck you, I'm not buying this. Like, to some extent, while a lot of companies are a little bit out of touch with the customer base, they do know enough about economics and shit. They know that if they up the fucking price a lot, they're going to lose business. It's not a hard concept to understand. And the reason for upping your price being, oh, well, we could make more money, or, this is already pretty cheap. You're getting off easy. We should get more. It feels entitled, and it feels selfish.
Let's look at history here. When Sony introduced the PS1, how much did they charge for a game?
I don't even
know. The average title. I seem to recall the average title was like $40 to $50. Nintendo charged about $60 to around $70 for their Nintendo 64 games. That's the average that I see.
You have to remember though that inflation adjusted.
Yeah,
that
I was about to say
$70
that.
is like $120, $150 right today.
No, not that bad. It's around like $90 or $100.
$100, same. So that game is actually more expensive. Was actually more expensive back then than the games we are paying for now.
That's true. And it was expensive. Even in Japan, it's expensive because I remembered seeing, because Japanese pay more than the U.S. does, from what I heard.
The average Japanese person tends to spend more for video gaming,
Yeah.
singular purchases, and entertainment.
But now you all had your say. Now, what if I said I'm gonna give you some additional information? What if I said that the analysts who they quoted in this article had stocks in EA and had ties to the parent company of CNBC, which is not disclosed in the article?
Well, it would seem kind of fucking ironic. He came off as way too much of a shill to begin with.
What? One word. Unethical.
Yeah, unethical.
Please note, he's the only journalist I see defending this shit. The rest of them are silent.
Yeah, I think it's really, when you add that to the article as well, he just seems like a shill. And the author of this article, one sec, what's his name? He had a Take Him. It sounds Korean. He does not disclose his relationship to EA, nor his relationship to the company of CNBC. That seems really freaking shady to me. And also to give you a context of, I'm gonna move it a little bit more towards the loot box and the microtransactions model, because right now, the model these EA and Activision, all these companies are doing, they're actually mostly relying on microtransactions, and that is not a sustainable model. Now, the guy who ironically introduced, there's a really good video by Skill Up. I think it's around 20 minutes long. I'm gonna put it in the description, but I recommend everyone watch it because it goes into detail. It was Andrew Wilson, who is the CEO of EA, who actually introduced the loot boxes with FIFA 2009 with Ultimate Team, and the majority of the profits from EA are actually from microtransactions. Around 650 million of that profit, which is over half, comes from FIFA alone. So imagine if the countries that now are looking into this and see this as gambling, because you don't actually know what you're gonna get. Because I would classify this as gambling, because the difference between these packs of Battlefront and FIFA compared to, like, say, Hearthstone or Overwatch even, is with Overwatch you know you're gonna get a skin, and you can't trade it, you just get them. With Hearthstone or regular even card packs, you know what you're gonna get. You're gonna get cards. You might be unlucky and get cards you already have, but you're gonna get cards. Now with the microtransactions, you don't know what you're gonna get, and because these companies get so greedy, and EA has overstepped so much regarding these loot boxes, the industry hasn't self-regulated, and countries are now looking into it. You have Hawaii. The senator there says he's gonna ban this or regulate it in some way. You have Belgium, France, Australia, and now the EU looking into this. I mean, what did you expect? And if you rely entirely on these microtransactions to get a profit, and you keep shutting down your studios, you're not only have less diversity. I hate that word, but a diversity in your gaming studios and your product which you release. When you close down Visceral Games, you'd have less variation of what you release. You're basically fucking yourself over because you are greedy in the short term and want microtransaction for a few games, and this is gonna bite them in the ass if countries are now gonna regulate these loot boxes, and they're gonna lose their entire profit margin.
Yeah, and if we gamers doesn't buy the games at all, then they're gonna really screw themselves over.
The thing that, like, I'm reading this guy's article on the cost per hour for entertainment when it comes down to video games. And a lot of it would seem accurate representation of the cost per hour. What he completely misses is that cost per hour are the reason that these avenues are no longer very popular at all.
I mean, yeah,
Like
you
80 cents per hour for movie rental. Okay, he does realize that overall to like shockingly low levels, and that's the reason companies like Block and Video have pretty much gone out of business across the U.S.
yeah.
because they were like dollars per hour. Movie theaters at $3 per hour. I was medium, but even with movies, you can see that the turnout of people going to movies has in fact gone down. And moviegoers don't tend to pay just to watch the movie. That most of the time they pay for watching the movie. But there's a reason it costs $3. It's not being in your living room watching a movie.
Yeah, you're kind of roboting. You're kind of roboting for us.
Oh, sorry. You're going to a movie theater to pay their employees. They need to pay for cleanup fees and stuff like that, and they need to pay for the equipment which they're using to watch the movie. It's an experience that people are paying for when they go out to see a movie at the movie.
Yeah, that's a good point, and it's also a false equivalency to compare movies or any other form of entertainment to video games. When first of all, you have to have equipment to play the game, a PC or a console. You have to for consoles you have to pay for online. You have to pay for electricity and the internet as well. So that's not taken into the cost either. And
Also, if it's a good movie, people will watch it more than once, which drives down the cost per hour significantly.
yeah, that's true as well. So this guy is saying using this as some sort of metric to measure how much you get out of the game. I mean, what about people who say, let's say they play Battlefront for 1 hour?
What happens when you own Battlefront, but you spend around 300 microtransactions over the course of 2 years, 2 or 3 years?
You're kind of roboting, dude.
Yeah, you're roboting hard, man.
I think it's the server location because my internet seems to be fine, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But like he didn't factor that people are going to spend money in games over the course of their lifetime.
Yeah.
By the initial investment for games with microtransactions. The problem is that with Star Wars Battle, don't pay the price of a game that includes microtransactions. Pay $60.
You're roboting again. Anyways, yeah. Assault. What did you want to say on this?
Oh, I pretty much said everything.
Okay, Arkham.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
I kind of agree with you on the part about that they really are fucking themselves over, because they definitely are not inclusive, especially with their company employees and everything, because they've been letting go a lot of employees. They've been known to do this, and considering that they say they're diverse, they keep firing people left and right. Like many of those people who worked for them for many years, they just fire them off the bat, don't give a shit. They just basically want to save money, and they consider themselves, well, they want to be like, they want to promote themselves as this diverse company, but at the same time they're not. They basically just fire anybody, including Manbeer Air. That's a proven point there, is that even though Manbeer Air is an asshole, racist, they let him work there for a while, even though, including the complaints that were made against him, they let him work there until they found out that they couldn't sell a freaking game. In order to save themselves, they decided to fire Manbeer Air.
I wouldn't say anything against him, because really, I wouldn't fire my friend. It's like the Lena Dunham situation when her friend got accused of raping someone. She's like, I believe my friends. That's cronyism in a nutshell across all forms. No one's gonna take a stand against their friend.
I would say it's more a nepotism, and I've seen this was also mentioned in that video, and I've seen some other videos on this topic, where all of these publishers and even journalists are defending the microtransactions, the season passes, and all of this, by saying the cost of games have increased, which is actually bullshit, because EA has actually their development cost has gone down during
marketing cost.
Yeah,
the marketing cost cost a lot, because they spend more money on advertising. They could have spent a little bit less on advertising if they would have spent it on, anything. Like they could have made. Mostly, they should just promote it through magazines, through YouTube if they want to, but they chose not to. It's like,
see, there's part of the problem. They keep on looking at gamers and thinking that we're the type of audience $300 million advertising to.
that's true.
Yeah, I mean, what I was talking about is a net total, where they have cut costs. Activision has cut costs regarding their employees and the development costs of games. So all of this myth that games cost more than ever is bullshit, because they are spending less now than they spent 10 years ago on games. So
gaming is probably one of the most profitable mediums when we time investment.
Yeah, true.
For the producers, like, especially when it comes down to like digital sales and stuff like that, there's literally very little investment that a publisher needs to make when it comes down to online sales.
Yeah, I mean,
and they also don't have to produce real in order on average.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing you are doing on, you don't have any costs regarding on online sales, Steam or PSN or Xbox Live, where you can just where you just split the profits with the person or the company you're selling from, with Sony, Microsoft or Valve. So and that just makes them more money in general. So the claim that it's impossible to earn money these days is just totally ridiculous. You make a budget, you plan from that, and you can earn, if it's a decent game, even these days, if it's a decent game, you can earn quite a lot of money, even if it's an indie game. Cuphead is an indie game and sold over 1 million copies in 2 weeks.
A lot of people forget you buy a game, you're not just charging for that particular game, you're also charging for things like packaging and the physical disc as well.
Yeah.
Like,
But it's not that expensive to make.
yeah, but it's not as expensive as, say, like...
You split the profits with the store, with GameStop or whatever the store, so your profit margin is less compared to a digital sale.
Generally, the actual, it's not. I wouldn't say it's it's certainly a sizable actual sale.
Yeah. And I wanted to mention this, where we have a recent incident. So let's say you spend, let's say just a hypothetical number. Let's say you spend 300 or even more than that. Let's say you spend $1,000. If it's an online only game, which EA is really advocating for, what happens when the server shuts down? Your money which you spent is basically worthless. It's not. It's even worse than gambling. You don't even have a shot to get back what you earned. So this happened recently with Marvel Heroes. It's in a Kotaku article, but I archived it just because Kotaku is trash. And here, Marvel Heroes players are demanding refunds for in-game purchases. I'm just gonna read the two starting paragraphs. A Marvel Heroes player who goes by iTurtle or whatever, but the game. Yeah, something like that. Game on Xbox in July. Since then, he says he sunk $400 US dollars and in microtransactions, unlocking characters such as Spider whatever. Marvel Heroes is a free-to-play Marvel Diablo game that developer the Gazillion Entertainment released on PC 2013. Earlier this year, Gazillion ported the game to Xbox One and PS4. Players could access a few characters without paying, but to get all the game's heroes, you'd have to buy them at around $5 per character, or in packs costing $20. You could also spend money on other add-ons such as costumes. Earlier this week, after Gazillion lost its contract with Marvel, the company said it would remove all real money purchase ASAP.
Wow.
I think part of the problem is,
gamers.
Big.
I think part of the problem is most of like the beginning of gaming, our purchases were geared towards knowing what we were getting, a full purchase and a complete game, and it seems developers either don't want to give that anymore, profitable for them not to, which is fine in the I think microtransactions overall can be a good thing if they're done properly. The problem which they're being done.
Yeah, you're kind of roboting hard, but I get I get the gist of what you're saying. Microtransactions aren't evil. It's how they're implemented. But when you have an online only game, and that's what EA is advocating for, and other companies as well, you're basically fucked if the game shuts down. So
Can I bring up something?
go ahead.
I managed to purchase a game called Gundam Versus. It's a fun game, but at the same time, I kind of got disappointed because of what they'd done with the game. It seems that Bandai Namco decided to make it always on. You have to log into the game server in order to play it offline, which is what Diablo 3 did. with Activision Blizzard. The thing about this game, it is a fun game, but at the same time, it was kind of sad to find out that you can't record it, you can't stream it, because they kind of had this. Because it turns out Sony has allowed developers to restrict anything that if you record it, you're allowed to also. You're only allowed to only screenshot it. That's it. I like the game. But at the same time, I kind of was disappointed what they did with that game. Because even though, and plus, the DLC for that game, they charge $5 per character. And that was similar to the Marvel Universe game. But it is a fun game, but it's just kind of sad how they handled that situation. Go ahead and to the next person.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, with the minute transaction, one could put more into DLC. Say you make a game, all the characters, and then have it so that you may make more if it's successful. Add more to, then you can add more character to it. But as long as gamers get the full context and content on the release date, no matter what, the company will get on the good graces, so to speak. Wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it is if a company makes a good game, it gets a good reputation, and people want to buy additional content for that game or future games. And that may not be a short-term successful model, but if you build up a reputation to build good games, like say CD Projekt Red, people are gonna buy your game, it's gonna be loved, and people are gonna buy that additional content, which is gonna make you a steady income.
Well, look at publishers like Nintendo and their...
Yeah, that's a good example as well.
And they pretty much don't allow people to stream. When you Nintendo, you know you're getting a full game with nothing cut out of it, and that's why people continuously give them money. Like, so Odyssey, Nintendo's fucking rolling in money from that shit.
Yeah.
But they're not making more money. They could be making more money, my friend. That's where EA's genius lies. They could be making more money. They could sell you Mario's costumes for real world money. They could sell you loot boxes to maybe get some of those costumes for a lower price. Who knows? They're not making enough. They aren't pleasing shareholders who demand constant growth, who demand billions of dollars in sales for each game that comes out.
Those shareholders have anything to worry about anytime soon.
No, but
you're just not respecting EA's genius.
Right. The EA thoughts and the Nintendo thoughts are two different paths, and that's a thing I are irritated more about in general is those that has shares in companies. They take them, they take the shares, wait a few years when they got the money back and earn something, they take it back, the shares falls, and the company goes shit.
I mean, that's what's happening to EA right now. After the microtransactions happen and the profit margin increase, their stocks increased by, I think, 30% over a few years. That's not a sustainable model regarding you are relying on something that that might be regulated in some way. So, and the investors don't know enough about gaming that they know this. So it's basically investing in something very unstable and could just disappear in just made a matter of few years. So EA is on very shaky ground right now. If they even lose their Star Wars license, that's gonna hurt them quite a lot. That's also the one article I listed because Disney has threatened to actually end their exclusivity deal. So those are things that EA doesn't really think of because they're so freaking greedy.
Are you guys familiar with Guild Wars 2?
Yeah.
Recently they had a controversy over RNG mount licenses, but the difference between Guild Wars 2 and other games is that every time you buy a mount license, you're guaranteed these, and you're not guaranteed any duplicates either. So if you bought 30 mount licenses, you would get every single mount.
Yeah.
Because it has. And while I was a little bit disappointed that they chose to release their first big batch of mount skin, it's at least how would I say? You can at least stomach it.
I mean, you know what you're gonna get. I think we've covered this pretty well. Any last thoughts on this? I'm gonna go to every one of you. I feel like I've talked quite a lot. Salt, any last thoughts on this?
You're still not appreciating EA's genius. Enough said.
Okay, that's a good one. Archon.
I basically said all I need to.
Okay, Revan.
The situation is hopefully resolved, but it is as basically I'm copying Raging Golden Eagle here. On the end of the day, there's so many titles out there that we can just choose for ourselves to pick a title that we like and stick with it. If it's fucked up, we can move on. We don't have to go after the AAAs because of how bad they're doing right now. There is a lot of others that can do better.
There's a reason League of Legends is doing so fucking well right now.
True.
Even they have fucking loot boxes and people aren't blowing up about them because they're not mandatory. They don't lock. You can in-game content, and also in like every 8 months or so, they give you a free skin. I mean, what's the hate?
Yeah. JT, do you have any last thoughts on this?
Well, luckily I didn't buy Star Wars, the new Star Wars Battlefront 2, because it was a real shit show. And plus, I managed to buy a few games here and there. I managed to buy like the Nintendo's very own Xenoblade Chronicles X. I have to say it was very fun, and I'm still playing it. Also, I managed to buy some Black Friday deals from Blizzard, which right now I'm playing Overwatch for $19, which is the standard version, which is fine, and I'm enjoying it right now. It's actually a fun game. Anything else, any game that has a little bit of value in it can be fun. But make sure you buy the right game that's for you. If you're not having fun, just send it back. Anyways, that's all.
Oh, first record left. Okay. Well, my last thoughts are don't pre-order games and fuck EA. So, yeah, thank you guys for watching and see you guys next time. Bye.